I want to take you back to SMTV Live in 1998 on ITV, showing the Pokemon series. Now, there had been rumblings about Pokemon for a few years, and I always remember that because I used to get a lot of, when gaming magazines were a thing, there would be like little snapshots. Anyway, I remember the first episode, I Choose You. And I will say, the games are like my favourite thing. My red Game Boy Color, which I still own, and Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Yellow, were my jam, and actually still are. Let's be real. I still love that series. I still play those games all the way through to more recent ones, Violet and Scarlet. Ups and downs in the games and the anime over the years, but they really brought it together, and thanks to events of 2020, a lot of stuff that happened in the anime was quite rushed, and I think a lot changed because they were like, okay, we need to speed this up. There was a lot cut, and that's a whole other story. I was this really shy, introverted kid, and I say this with complete honesty, that series, playing the trading card game, taking my Game Boy to events, getting my mystic Pokemon, were some of my happiest and most fun memories of that sort of era of my life. I heard Ash was leaving the anime, and I always said this, like, for years I think the anime deteriorated, but they have brought it back, especially in recent years. What's the words I'm looking for? It's very difficult to find words. I feel like part of my childhood is ending. That's how it feels. That's honestly how, knowing that these games are the series, the anime, have been such a big part of my life. 25 years of Ash and Co. on their adventures across Kanto, the Orange Islands, Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, Unova, every region that's come and gone, every storyline. It's interesting now, because nostalgia is a thing, especially as you get older. I think nostalgia can be a great curse and a great looking back. I was this painfully shy, introverted kid, very different to how I am now. It's interesting just seeing this happen. I feel like just part of it, and I'm watching the last run of Ash's Journey in Japanese. And, they're really pulling on the heartstrings. There's lots of callbacks. And going by the title of the last episode, I get the feeling where something's going to tie into that first episode. It was always a really nice, safe it was that safe place of innocence and happiness. Chest was a nice place for children. And it's strange now, knowing that it's ending his journey, his adventure, his time with Pikachu. His time in that anime is just nostalgia, and this is pure nostalgia. But seeing that element of my childhood end, seeing that element of a character I grew up with, a character that, I suppose, I had posters all over my walls and stuff like that. And I want to say this, I kept playing even when it wasn't popular. That's the thing, like, most people don't realize that, but I kept playing even when it wasn't popular and wasn't the big new franchise. But I kept playing because I like that world. I like that little world that the games take place in that's sweet and charming. And I had a moment, I was going through my game. I was going through Pokemon Home, and I realized a lot of the Pokemon I have, because you couldn't transfer Gen 1 to Gen 2. You could transfer Gen 1 to Gen 2, but you couldn't go to Gen 3. So your Pokemon was stuck there. So those are long gone, and those cartridges don't work anymore because battery save. A lot of the stuff from those Pokemon I have are over 20 years old now. And that's weird. Like, they've still got their ribbons and their information. And it does make me feel a little bit sad when I see the thing where it says, traveled across space and time, or a commemorative ribbon from a region a long time ago, from a Pokemon League a long time ago. And just seeing that element of my childhood come to an end, I got to go to Japan with SMTV Live. I got my Mew in Japan. That was cool. That was an amazing experience in 1999, I think. Yeah, it was 99. And so we got a week in Japan. And I want to say this, by the way, Ant, Deck, and Cat were lovely. Genuinely lovely people. And really, like, we would go out with dinner with them and things like that. So they weren't just background players, so to speak. They were actually involved in talking to the kids, and it was nice. They were genuinely nice. And we got money and stuff to spend in the Pokemon Center and all of the goodie bag. I've still got this stuff. And my certificate, my official Mew certificate, and later Celebi from Gen 2. The events dried up through Gen 3, 4, and 5, actually, which was a shame, because in the UK, to get a lot of this stuff, you had to go to major cities, and there was only like 4 hours once a year or something at some random place. And just that memory of those fun times and that adventure and that moment, I think we all have those shows and thing where we just look at ourselves and go, this was such a fundamental part of our life. And I look back at watching Pokemon and just those characters that I spent so much time with. In one sense, I think it's a good thing. Ash is kind of leaving, I think, in that kind of hindsight thing. But it's sad that he's leaving because, again, big part of childhood. And, like, those shows were just that thing. I wish I had words to quantify this. I loved what they did when the original creators come back and they did that alternative universe, Ash, the I Choose You film timeline, and they did one, and that was brilliant. I thought that was such a sweet, charming episode. I can say wholeheartedly that it is part of my life. It is part of what made me who I am, maybe. And I think it's also, I think for a lot of kids, it's that thing of like, I want to be a kid again. I posted it on TikTok, and it was a video, and it was flashback. It's your childhood in 1999, and Saturday morning, and an old CRT TV with a Nintendo 64 under it, and watching a VHS of Pokemon. And it's not Pokemon, Americans. It's Pokémon. There's an accent above the E. Just saying, that really irritates me. But yeah, it's those weird little moments of like, this is my childhood. And just seeing it come to an end makes me feel very ancient. I'm looking forward to what comes next. Because I do prefer, as I've got older, I definitely prefer the Japanese anime over the dub. I will say that. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I think both are equally as charming as each other. Let's be real. They are. But just seeing how this is affected, and the stories I can tell, and being that shy, introverted kid, going to these events was a big deal for me because I was so painfully shy. And I mean that. Like, I was embarrassingly shy. There's no way around that. And I wonder what's next. You know, there's a whole generation of young kids finding this franchise. Every generation of games brings in new players, brings in people. And even now, if you go to events, you see people of all ages. You see parents with their kids, and it's wonderful. Like, I went to an event, the last proper event I went to, like, I'm seeing parents introducing their kids to the games, the anime, the trading cards, and it's nice. It's wholesome. But just seeing that element of my childhood end and that kind of nostalgia, I wonder what 10, 11-year-old me would think of me now. Because I didn't know what I wanted to be at 11. I didn't know anything. I wanted to be a Pokemon master. I wanted to be a Power Ranger. I wanted, the whole list of ambitions, childhood ambitions that we all have, I suppose. And I look at it and think, oh, just to go back in time. Go back to that kid with his little TV VHS thing in his bedroom, playing Nintendo, Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Snap, which is still one of my favourite games. And I mean, this is going to sound a weird thing. I have this weird thing with music and imagery in my brain. The music to Pallet Town in Red, Blue, and Yellow, and it was reused in any game that featured Pallet Town, puts me back to that moment. The music from those games is literally embedded into my childhood. And I remember going with my mother, and she got me Pokemon Silver. Oh my god, Pokemon in colour? Not just the sort of weird colour palettes of the original games, but actual colour was amazing. And just that feeling of wonderment and all these new mechanics and that feeling each generation that I still get. I still pre-order these games. I have pre-order bonuses going back many years. I have books that I picked up as a child, and I'm a big kid and I'm unapologetic about that. I do feel sad. It does make me feel sad because it's my childhood. It's a moment. It's a moment in time of who I was and a moment in time of the people I knew. My grandmother was still alive. My grandfather was still alive. So much has happened since in those intervening years that I can go back to those memories and it's comforting. Some of the stuff I own is now quite collectible, which is frightening. I still have a lot of the prize bonuses. I have all of the prizes. I have the pin badges that were used as gym badges for events in the UK and the US, some of them. Just those little moments in time, those stolen memories, those flashes that we have. And in my head, I went on my own Pokemon adventure and that was me. That was part of me. And it was a wonderful place to be as a child. It was a brilliant place to be as a child. And just seeing this story end and come to fruition at almost 35, seeing this story end, seeing Ash and Pikachu's days play out, and just knowing that for most kids after this point, their first introduction to the anime is not going to be Ash and Co. It's not going to be that journey, that adventure. It's going to be a different adventure. It's going to be a different characters. It's going to be very different. And, I always say this, if I ever become a parent, I want to introduce my kids to this because it's such a nice, safe place for children. But, yeah, just... oh my god, I mean, I feel so old. Let's be real, I feel ancient. I feel ancient talking about this. And it's a mark of everything that's happened since. And even now, as an adult, if I'm having a blue day or a bad day, because I do have depression, that's not something I talk about that much. I do suffer with depression. I put Pokemon on. It just alleviates. That's the word for it. Alleviates. So, knowing a big factor of my childhood is coming to an end, knowing that this is it's kind of like the ending of something. And I know it's a new beginning, and I know all of this, but just knowing that factor and the sort of all this nostalgia that's going on of 25 years of this in my brain is just amazing and sad and weird. And like I said, I feel about 120. But tell me what you think in the comments below. What's your favourite Pokemon memory? Because I'm curious on this one.